how to do some wonderful French classics today, but I'm going to put it together to make something that I call Lisa's cake. We're going to fill this cake with whipped cream, so let me talk about it. So the cream I'm using is pure 40% fat cream. If you have carrageenan, which is seaweed, and guar gum, which is the seed from a plant from India, your cream breaks down a lot faster. In fact, it might break down permanently and never hold up. So if you ever whipped cream, you put it on top of a pie and you see the liquid leaching out, that's because you're using a feeble cream. I've got a cream here, and this is called chantilly. I've whipped this to a consistency so it just mounds. See, that's not going to hold its peak at all, but this is how you would whip cream if you're going to put it on top of a dessert or on top of berries. So it should be just this consistency. And I bring it up, you know, chilling the bowls and all that really doesn't make a tremendous amount of difference if you have decent cream. So this is chantilly for on top of berries. This consistency is for piping. This is about what we use for piping and filling the cake, and you can see it's got some peaks. If I hold it up like this, it kind of holds together more than what the chantilly did. So this will be good in between a cake, and if I want to pipe little rosettes, see how it's holding together instead of flowing? And this one, have you ever whipped the cream on top of your pie for Thanksgiving when no stores are open and it goes a little bit too far and it gets grainy like this? A little bit too far, it starts to turn to butter. Well, you can rectify that. You can fix it by adding some fluid cream. So I always withhold maybe a tablespoon in case I get distracted. Add that into it, and you can bring this back to a good consistency simply by adding the liquid cream. So if you see how grainy it was? So don't fret. If you ever go a little bit too far, just add some liquid cream and you can fix it. So we'll keep this medium one for putting inside the cake. I'll just hand those to Janet for a minute. All right, we're going to make a biscuit. A biscuit is a sponge cake. It's very simple. I want to show you how to fold properly, and that's a very important technique. We don't have to use a lot of baking powders and baking sodas to leaven our cake. We're going to use egg whites to make it rise and hold together. So I'm going to break up the egg yolks. Just going to add a little bit of sugar. Janet knows how to do this because she did the one for the prepped one for the show, and it's perfect. All right, some sugar. We have orange zest. Janet, would you zest that orange? I'm going to drop the orange zest in right now. Helps extract some of the flavor of the oil. So she'll zest the orange. She'll show you a couple of strips, and then we're going to chop it up fine. But this is going to have a Grande Marnier buttercream, so we're going to match the flavor of the cake orange to the liqueur, which is also orange. Here we are about 2 minutes later. I'm going to show you the consistency. I need to put a little salt in there before I take it apart. I actually put in one. Put that aside. All right, I'll show you what we have here. We'll just put this aside for a minute. It's always nice to have another mixing bowl. Very handy. Okay, now we've got egg whites, eight of them. We're going to bring this up to a stage. How long do you do egg whites? Until they're done. There's no timing. You should have these at room temperature. On a hot day, if it's 90 degrees, you only want them out for about 15 minutes. If it's really cold in your kitchen in the winter, you can allow them to stay out for half an hour. They have to come up to a stage when the whites just begin to pull away from the bowl. Then we're going to add just 1 tablespoon. Can everybody see that? All right, then we'll start adding the sugar. Just a little bit, and that's called tightening the whites. And then add the rest. Let's take a look. If you do this with a copper bowl by hand, it's a little bit easier. Nope, soupy. See how it didn't curl? So we'll let it go just a little bit more. After the sugar's in, you don't want it to go too far, maybe a minute or so, because the whites actually are burned by the friction of the sugar. I think whites and crusts are the most difficult thing for people to do. Everybody's afraid of them. So we try to give you the reference points rather than times, and the reference points are very important in cooking. There we go, now it's holding together. You see I've got the peak. We're going to lighten up this mixture, and folding technique is very, very important. Put a little bit of white in this mixture, and we'll just lighten this up a little bit because this yolk mixture is very heavy. All right, now when I pour this back into the whites, I'm going to put this off to the side so I don't plop the yolks on top of the whites and deflate them, because we've worked real hard to get those whites exactly where we want them. Okay, we're going to fold it in. When you fold, you're going to fold all the way around, lift it up, and see how I'm just leaving this little bit of a trail on top, and cut through the center, fold, cut through the center. I'm all the way underneath. And never ever go like this or mix it or stir because you're deflating the whites. So this is what's going to give us a nice high risen puffy biscuit just by proper folding. About that much at a time. You too can do this at home with one person though. You don't have to. It's a lot harder for me to cook at home when it's just me all by myself in my 9-foot kitchen. Okay, go ahead. We always say in this class, pastry making is a science, it's not an art. So you want to have exact weights and measurements. That's it. Good. All right, get this folded in. Now we're going to put this on a prepared sheet, and the sheet is prepared. The girls did this with parchment paper, lightly buttered. And if you have a good parchment paper, you normally don't have to butter it, but we just do in case because you want to be able to peel this off pretty quickly. Again, you're not plopping this because if you do this a lot, you're deflating all those whites. So you can do it one time, just a little bit, and I'll show you what happens. If you do this like this, you can probably start seeing it's real dense yellow. I've deflated those, and you have big holes in your cake. Spread this out just evenly. Okay, flat cakes like this, or sponge cakes that are that aren't dense in a cake pan, get baked at higher temperatures. So this can be baked at about 375 up to 400 degrees. This is 375 because it's a thicker flat cake, if that makes sense to you. If it would be real thin, I would bake this at about 425 degrees. It gets done very quickly. One time I can do this. Okay, this can go off into the oven. There's a little flour, which we don't want. See, that's one of the problems of doing that. This will be good, though. And this is going to go into the bottom one, did we say? All right, I'm going to give the straw, we've got some, just a cup of sugar and a cup of water. This is to make a syrup, and we're going to imbibe our cake with this, and we don't want it to be a boring imbibed cake, so we're going to add some Grande Marnier to it. This is my favorite taste ever. So the cake is going to come out. We're going to roll it. We just put it on a towel. It gets plopped on like this, and you powder sugar it, and then roll it up, and roll it loosely. And there's our cream. All right, so imbibing, we're not painting. When you imbibe, just get it nice and soaked. It smells good up here. Strawberries and Grande Marnier, pretty good combination. But as I said, strawberries and Grande Marnier and anything are a pretty good combination. All right, imbibed. And we've got some cream. After we get the cream and the berries on this, we're going to put this in the fridge a little bit to let this set. We want all this to match. I put in this whipped cream, by the way, added some Grande Marnier. I want this all to match. We're going to sugar them a little bit. Ideally, you could let this mix sit for probably 10 minutes or so. And strawberries, by the way, these are pretty decent strawberries. Those things that you buy in markets that are this big, and when you cut them open, they're woody inside with big holes, aren't strawberries. They're just garbage. But these are nice berries. There are little berries in France that are this big, and they're so sweet, and they're so sugary, and they taste so good. And we have some good ones here, too. However, those big ones are not nice. So who's ever making berries out there, knock it off. All right. You want this full enough, of course, where you have lots of strawberries. Those extra ones we can do in our other cakes this afternoon. Or, we have to lift this up when you're turning it and stuff it in there and lift it up. All right, now we're just going to put it in the fridge to chill just for a few minutes. And next, we are going to make my favorite recipe of all, classic French buttercream.